At all times, people have invested in real estate and considered it the most reliable way to preserve and increase their capital in their investment. But the situation we have today in the market, with high property prices and high mortgage rates, makes it hard for people not just to think about investing, but even to buy an apartment for themselves. That's become a luxury today. But if I tell you that you can start investing in real estate today with just $1,000, and today we're going to talk about that. Today, we have my business partner Anton Pankin as our guest, and we're going to talk about the risks of investing in real estate and how to start earning income even with small investments. Anton, hi. Tell us just a couple of minutes about yourself for our viewers and share how your journey in investing began.
Dennis, hi. Well, let's start with the fact that I have a degree in mathematics and programming, but it just so happened that I spent 17 years in construction. I was born in the Far East and worked on building houses there. We have 10 years of experience in building houses together. And besides construction, we've done a lot of successful projects. Then I went to study at Skolkovo, and when I presented my construction project there, they looked at my track record and said, "What kind of builder are you? You're an IT guy. All your business processes are set up like in an IT company." And this understanding made me realize that I wanted to transition into a position as a serial tech entrepreneur. So my partners and I in the US set up a venture fund, and we invest in the tech sector. But this is already like the quintessence of what I've experienced on my journey. I started investing back in the early 2000s in tech companies through a brokerage, through public companies. And back in 2015, 9 years ago, I was managing a network of my own apartments as part of the hotel business. And now, bringing together all this experience, the experience from the fund, the tech sector, the real estate development, and the experience in managing the hotel business. Right now, we're working together on that project that we'll talk a bit more about today.
Anton, well, look, a venture fund means risks, right? These are high-risk investments. Will it take off or won't it? It's clear that the team is great and the projects are awesome. Let's say everyone understands that real estate is reliable, it's stable, and everyone loves real estate. You came up, felt it, looked at it, no matter what happens with the currency or the prices. You have an apartment, it doesn't matter what it's worth.
But there's income synergy.
Well, let me give you my personal example. I got into it in 2022. In Phuket, I bought a 50 square meter apartment just 50 meters from the beach from a great developer. At that time, it cost around $380,000 for a 2-bedroom apartment. So it's been 2 years, the property is being handed over in 2 months, and its market price has already doubled, meaning it's worth, well, that's 50% annual return. Yeah, 50% annual return.
But for you to earn that 50% annual return, you first need to sell. Are you going to sell it as an apartment or as another product?
Okay, let's put it this way. That's a good question. I originally bought it to resell, but since the market situation has turned out the way it has, selling it now means you won't really get anything better because the prices have skyrocketed. Most likely I'll rent it out.
Okay, great. How are you going to manage it?
Manage it through our fund that we're creating.
Wait, tell me how it is. Okay, sure, let's go. We're currently analyzing this situation that everyone finds themselves in.
The classic way, yeah, the classic way, that's good. I got in, bought it. Let's say I don't understand the markets. I don't deal with real estate. So of course, I'm going to look for some management company or an agent who would take my apartment under management.
I got an agent, but how is he going to manage this apartment? Can you control it? Can you see what kind of return it's going to bring?
Yeah, of course. Initially, we can have a chat. I can look at his experience. He will show various cases, meaning examples. I'll just trust that in this regard, but how will it actually be? You need to go through some kind of process.
So like not at all?
Well, for 6 months to a year, I'll just be watching how it goes. So gaining experience in this.
Okay. Can you please tell me what affects the rental income?
Well, let's put it this way. First of all, considering that, for example, if we're talking about a puff, it's a big international market. The question is just about marketing. It's a marketing issue. So the goal of my agent is to show the maximum number of clients, the maximum amount of who pays for this marketing. Well, actually, I do from the income.
So basically, you're not managing the agent, you're not controlling the expenses related to marketing, and you don't know how much your apartment will earn over the next few years. Well, actually, yes. Look, in this situation, all market participants are involved. Let me explain why. The main task of any property owner is to fill it with as many rental days as possible, especially if we're talking about a yearly contract. This scheme doesn't work here, meaning we signed, and we understand that we'll be getting something every year. But if we're going into short-term rentals, where our income should be twice as much compared to a yearly contract, otherwise it's not worth it. So in this case, it's really important for us to have that threefold number of occupied days per year. Can you please tell me what will determine the number of occupied days for a specific property?
Well, basically, it's from advertising, from sales, from marketing.
So that's the listing. So on which platforms will this apartment be listed? On how many platforms?
Yeah.
Makes sense.
Yeah, marketing second.
That's the cost per day. So you need to understand whether you're selling at a high price or a low price. So you should have a market price. In the market, yes. How are you going to manage this? How will your agent manage this physically?
Well, only relying on his knowledge, experience, and capabilities.
As of today, there are over 300 international platforms on the market, plus some Russian ones. How can this agent effectively manage all the properties and work in your favor?
I don't know the answer to that question.
And all market participants face this problem. So the main task, if we're talking about professional management, is to give market participants the ability to understand how their property is listed on all platforms. Why is his property effective or ineffective compared to other market participants? That is, we must work on reviews, we must work on the list, and most importantly, we must dynamically manage prices. And if we're talking about an average private participant, that private participant will always lose to the big platform, because the big platforms have access to data, meaning they can get all the information in that area, like how certain data changes. Because big platforms have access to data, meaning they can get all the information. They can see how certain data changes in that area, like what's popular this season, because the situation can change. You need to either raise the price dynamically or lower it and find a balance between the price and the occupancy of that apartment. They can get all the data in that area as a certain date changes. It's popular this season because the situation can change, and you need to either raise the price dynamically or lower it and find a balance between the price and the occupancy of that apartment. Private management often can't do this literally, physically.
I agree. I agree with that speech, yes, with that message, but then overall, do you find real estate investments interesting based on what you said earlier?
Yes and no. No, if it's a classic buy and sell. Yes, if it's a new pharmaceutical. Let me explain why. Usually people buy a property and expect to sell it just like that, like an apartment, the same product, without doing anything, just waiting for the value to increase. But they also fall into the same trap as 99% of the participants in this market. Why? Why do participants in this market fall into that trap? Because the next buyer wants to buy profitability. They don't want to overpay, just for the property, for the apartment, of course. He buys it, either for living or for renting it out. We're talking about those people who invest for rental purposes, and your main task is to manage this effectively. So 99% of people manage this without a system, without knowledge, and most importantly, without experience. When I was buying apartments in 2015, renovating them and renting them out, we had the highest occupancy rates. We received superhost status from Airbnb 11 times. In 2019, we received a subsidy from Airbnb when the whole market went into recession because of the COVID situation, because we were their best partners. And at that time, we were recouping those properties in 2-3 years. How did we achieve this? We achieved this with a completely different approach that we're applying now. So, by combining this technological approach that we used and the ability to diversify our markets through funds, we create this, let's say, magic, right? It allows people to invest in a successful business model even if they don't have enough money to buy a whole apartment or a whole unit, They can participate in this, spreading their investments like we do in a minority.
So you're saying that any investor, even with $1,000, can get in and take a piece of an apartment and earn income from it.
The most important thing is that he can see what kind of object, he can see in what residential complex, what kind of object will bring him more profitability. And our main task, of course, is to choose these locations.
So, did I understand correctly that basically anyone with even $1,000 can enter any project, say in Phuket or Bali, buy a part of an apartment, and earn income from that investment, leveraging the experience of all the professionals behind it, the experience of venture funds, and your experience in investments and real estate? So basically, he joins a team, and with a small, let's say, starting capital, he can earn income in any location, and he can even invest in several projects at the same time, just a little bit in each.
That's right. This approach will allow you to earn the maximum profit on the property. Because when you buy even one apartment, you will face the same risk as all other participants, because you will not be able to guarantee the occupancy of the apartment in a particular residential complex. Having the ability to buy small square meters in different residential complexes, and most importantly, to diversify the risks across different markets, is what really provides increased returns compared to just buying a single property.
As far as I know, you've studied the Dubai market very thoroughly and meticulously because, let's say, a similar system is applied there in a somewhat limited form. We were together in Singapore this year, and there's something similar there too. We attended the 2049 crypto conference where we picked up some interesting insights and ideas. So tell me a bit about that, shed some light on it. And as I understand it, this experience, this background, is created in the context of what was, what is, and what will be.
The most important thing is what remains on the field. Let me tell you a story. So it happened that when we flew to the conference, my partner's assistant booked us a house, and after we landed at the airport to Singapore, in Singapore, it's 11 p.m. I get a certificate sent to me. I call the phone number listed there to check in, and a girl from the Arctic and the Emirates picks up. She says, "Do you know the person who is calling me?" I said, "Okay, but I don't have any villa in Singapore." I said, "Okay, I'm going to report this to the police, yeah. And basically, I have nothing. Well, you were just left hanging." When we started to figure things out, it turned out that the assistant couldn't find a decent property because at that time, the Token 2049 conference and Formula One were happening, and all the hotels were fully booked. So I found myself in a deadlock situation where I couldn't book anything there because all the options were floating around in Telegram chats and channels, and none of it was done through a proper platform. So in this case, the platform definitely solves a lot of issues, right? But it was this pain. Yeah, I spent several hours at the airport trying to figure out where I could spend the night that made me realize I'm not the only one facing this problem. I consider myself a technically savvy person. Yeah, as a matter of fact, I've traveled around the world and seen a lot in various places, and everyone faces these many different problems, a variety of challenges. And it's on this pain that a big business is built. There's a saying, "I'll scratch where it itches." So solve this problem, and you'll solve the problem for many. And seeing how the hotel space was organized in the project where I checked in, and looking at the tools in Singapore with the technological background I have from traveling the world, we are now actually taking the best practices, all the best management systems, and our experience in investing in different properties allows us to create a product that we are currently developing.
Anton, you're currently living in Istanbul, Turkey with your family, right? You travel a lot. You've been to Dubai, you're going to Bali for vacation, and you visited Phuket this year. Can you please tell me which market you would invest in today and why?
Let's start with the fact that, I was in Phuket this year, and I ended up there out of necessity. Yeah, because I had to fly to a conference. To be honest, I didn't like Phuket. I just didn't really like it. Why? Because the last time I was there was about 7 years ago. But thanks to you, because you invited me, I saw it from a completely different perspective. And the situation in the market has changed, which is a total revelation for many. For me, Phuket was always just a village with hanging wires, but now seeing the infrastructure that's been built there. The port in Phuket really impressed me. They did a great job. Europeans came in, restaurateurs, the food is delicious, the service is excellent, and the prices are low. I see that the development of Phuket is just starting with a new type. So any market always develops in waves. There are ups and downs and so on. Right now, I can feel at my fingertips that what's happening in Phuket is going to lead to a rapid growth in the next 10, 15 years. Right now, a lot of things have come together. Let's say in one point, Ukraine has come out of the COVID situation, and they have now restored the entire tourist flow, with the government investing a lot of money into infrastructure development, building a new airport, roads, and the goal is to double their tourist flow. And I see that new class residential complexes are starting to be built with completely new infrastructure. So the infrastructure that was built 40 years ago hasn't really become outdated at all. Right now, we need a new breath of fresh air, and I can see that it's happening at the moment. And of course, in growing markets, you can definitely make money. Therefore, if I answer your question, although I didn't like the bouquet before, I now see that this is precisely the point of development. It will be exactly in the next 10, 15 years. Yeah, that's 100%. I can see it because living in Istanbul, it's so amazing. Just the other day, I was on a plane, and a woman was telling me that you need to buy real estate in Phuket.
I say, what? A Turkish woman?
Turchenko. I say, why? And that's because my friend, who invests all over the world, says, I just flew there, and now there's growth. I say, do you know why? Because I take the statistics, and I find it really surprising that different people from various countries around the world are starting to focus their attention there. I just take the statistics, and I can see it very clearly in the numbers. Phuket, we have 17,000 rooms on the same Airbnb. Bali has 65,000 rooms, which means there are almost 4 times fewer rooms. And the tourist flow is the same. Phuket is 10 times smaller than Bali. So the density of infrastructure in Phuket is much more, let's say, feasible, especially in the area.
Well, it's more comfortable for living and for vacation.
Yes. Next, there's no beach vacation in Bali. Phuket is all about beach vacations. It's just white sand, and there are so many places to come and relax. The service is high right now, with Europeans going there, new residential complexes being built. So this is like a new development. I'm not saying that Bali or Phuket, I love Bali. I spent a big part of my life there. But right now, I'm speaking from the perspective of an investor, as someone who sees these imbalances. I think that Phuket, at this moment, is quite an interesting spot. We will also be acquiring properties in Bali and creating opportunities in the market where there's a shortage. But at this moment, I think this transition point is forming right now there.
Anton, how can you invest in all these locations at the same time?
Well, why don't you tell us about our product?
Okay, briefly, the MERUONE platform, what does it offer? There are three main directions. So the first direction is the opportunity for bulk purchasing. So for example, if you're an investor and you have $1 million, you come in, buy an apartment in a pre-sale from the developer, right? You get the maximum discounts, mobile packages as a gift, but if it's a bulk purchase, you're not alone. You have someone here with you, you have $10 million, we come in, buy an entire building, and we tell the developer, pre-sale is great, but we want more, and we get even more discounts. So the first one is the opportunity for collective purchasing. The second one, we bought the apartments. What do we need to do? We need to rent them out. So this is the home stage package. It's flipping, it's setting up apartments for rent, it's listing on 300 platforms worldwide, it's connecting to electronic locks, to the platform itself, to the app. So every apartment owner will be able to see on their phone what their apartment looks like, how it's furnished, how it's being rented out, where it's listed, who checked in and who checked out. So it's a completely transparent system. So we are investing heavily in this direction in marketing. So our goal is to show as many potential clients in the market as possible your apartment, making it look beautiful, the best, and as fully booked as possible. And the third direction is the tokenization of the apartment. This is exactly the solution for those investors who have $1,000 or more. So what's its essence? We take an apartment and divide it into pieces. Let's say 10, 15, 20 people come in and each invests whatever they can in shares. And on the invested money, people will receive income. This entire structure is completely legal. It's all within the legal framework. And you can buy an apartment not only in Phuket, but also, for example, in Bali. This is about the diversification that you, Anton, mentioned earlier. This is exactly the kind of story where you have a little piece of real estate here, little piece there, right? And you earn income from all of it. So basically, you're diversifying.
That's right, because it's not like you just have one apartment left. You've spread it out a bit, so you have the opportunity to earn income in different markets.
Yeah, now let's look at the option of why this is needed for our participants, our clients. If it's an investor, what do they get? Well, let's say, for example, an investor comes in and the first thing they do is a wholesale purchase. They immediately get the maximum possible discounts, not just during the sale, but even lower. How does he make money? While the property is being built, it has a capitalization of at least 30-40% price increase compared to what he bought it for. Next, he comes to us for the rental packaging. So we package this apartment as a business. So basically, the person who buys this apartment later doesn't really need the apartment itself. They need some kind of tool that will bring them income. So we'll package this apartment as a business. We'll put in locks, connect it to our platform, and list it on 300 global sites. And that adds at least another 10% to the price of the apartment. This is for the investor who initially came in. We can sell it, the investor gets their income, and the one who buys it gets a ready-made business and starts earning right away. And if we go even further into earning, this same investor can get into the story of tokenization. So basically, he sells this packaged apartment retail in pieces, so that's another 20% added to the value of this apartment. The bottom line is that the investor earns from the increase in the property's value while it's being built, from the packaging for rental, and from tokenization. And in the end, the return can reach 80-100% in 2.5 or 3 years.
So basically 30-40%, 50% per year. Well, that's the ideal picture if we're talking about the perfect scenario. And if we look at it from the perspective of a good normal return of 30-35% per year, considering all the variations are possible, all variations, yes, that's a great return on such a reliable asset as real estate.
We'll record a separate video to go into more detail about the fund, its advantages, and its structure, where we'll explain everything in depth and answer other related questions. So make sure to subscribe to our channel so you don't miss this video. That was about the returns for investors, but now let's talk about what the holder of the apartment as a business actually gets, like someone who bought this apartment. That's part of it. Not small, let's say, all the apartments, right? So let's consider the option of the whole apartment. So he bought an asset, essentially bought a business that's already packaged, right? It's connected to all the systems, all the platforms are set up. You invested money, and yes, it might cost a bit more than the market price because with a regular apartment, you could get it cheaper, but then you'd have to go look for an agent or a management company, which takes time. And will they bring in the same income? Will they achieve the same occupancy rate that we would? That's the question, right? That's your risk. Do you want to share that risk with someone else? That's the risk. Share the risk or pay more upfront for immediate income? You want to share it with someone, right? Or yeah, maybe pay a bit more upfront for a ready-made product and start earning income right away.
It takes at least 6 months to improve property listings through reviews. To achieve Superhost on Airbnb, spend 6 months with reviews above 4.8 stars. This period is spent building reputation, losing income. Superhosts capture 75% of traffic. For example, to get Superhost status on Airbnb, you need to spend at least 6 months, and you have to have reviews above 4.8 stars. You physically can't do it. So basically, for those 6 months, you're just working on your reputation, and you're losing that income. Those who achieve Superhost status capture 75% of all the traffic. That means you will be losing money for 6 months. When you enter the PU in the ready-made apartment A in your network with super reviews from the Superhost, you have actually already earned. That is, working with a big manager, you will earn money with him at least at speed. That's quite a decent amount of money over those 6 months. The second point is that your goal is to get as many tenants as possible to come to your apartment. But the person who bought the apartment as a business has the option to sell it later and partially cash out of the assets as well. This is a very important point because unfortunately, if we need to raise some money, we have to sell the entire property as a whole. As an investor, I can own one apartment, and if I want to, say, cash out half of my assets or just a small part of it, we can list it and sell it as functional real estate.
Yes, the next investor, of course. When it comes to rental income, as the owner of a ready-made turnkey business, you can expect to earn 7 to 10% annually in stable currency from rentals, plus the annual appreciation of the apartments. Phuket is an island and only 20% of it is suitable for development. There's an average capitalization of about 3-5%. Even the Bank of Thailand officially offers a rate of 5.5%. So basically, by taking the rental rate plus the capitalization rate, you get 10-15% per year.
Up to 15% per year. And by adding a more efficient management model, property can generate much higher income. And also, by the way, an important point, people who own some property, they want to live there, right? Can you tell me, will people be able to use this apartment for some period of time for rental, to live in it themselves?
Well, look, if I'm the sole owner of the apartment, right, and I'm renting it out, I can just say in advance, guys, I want to live there myself for, say, this time, these months. We say, okay, so we take them off the rental, but we explain that you won't have any income for those months because you're living there yourself. The others, please, you can still earn from. That's the first point. Second, if you own part of the apartment, then it won't work that way because it's collective ownership and everyone wants to maximize their earnings. Since you own part of the apartment, yes, you earn income from the invested money. And in fact, you can accumulate them, right? If you want, you can take them out or you can leave them in your account, in your wallet, and use them for rentals, for example, in this property or in any other from all the ones we have in our system. A small additional discount? Yes, and you get an additional discount. So for those who want to become our investors, collective investors, and get maximum discounts on purchases, for those who want to get an apartment as a ready-made business and rent it out to earn income, for anyone who already has an apartment and wants to join our platform or become an investor starting from $1,000, check out the links in the description, register on the website, and the first ones to register before the launch of our platform, which is tentatively in the spring of 2025, will receive some really great bonuses and discounts for the first stay in our properties.
And also, the most important thing we haven't mentioned is that besides being able to invest, people can also rent directly on the platform at prices lower than on external sites. And those who register will have the opportunity to book and move into the first newly renovated apartments at the best prices in Phuket by spring 2025.
So friends, there are no options here. Go ahead, register. Anton, as a real estate reconstruction company, we often get asked, so you have Phuket and there's Phuket, but why Phuket? There's so much being built there, but where is it all going? Who's going to sell it? How will it be rented out? Is it really going to sell? Everyone's talking about this Phuket. Could you please comment on that? It definitely won't be rented out. Who will be moving in?
Got it. Listen, it doesn't work that way in business. You never go by your gut feeling. You always take the statistics. You always work with the numbers. Having access to the data, you can clearly see what's happening in the market. If we look at the tourist flow that was before COVID, during COVID, and after COVID, we can see that Phuket and all of Thailand have fully recovered to the numbers that were there before this situation.
In 2023, there were 28.5 million tourists.
Around 30 million.
Yes. And by 2027, the government has set a plan for 70 million tourists.
What does that mean? As of today, if we look at the statistics, there are about 95,000 rooms in Phuket and around 3,000 to 6,000 new apartments are rented out each year. That means There won't be a shortage of that growth rate. Moreover, the Thai government is currently canceling visas for most countries in an effort to attract new tourists. The second point, tourists from the Arab Emirates went, which means it's completely impossible for them to be there during the summer due to the heat. Right now, we see that there aren't many tourists or direct flights during the off-season. Yeah, that never used to happen. In Dubai, there are billboards saying, go to Phuket. Krabi, Phuket, Thailand in general. So right now, there are a lot of Arabs heading in that tourist direction. That's true, especially in Moscow, there's a lot. So I just see that they went to relax and check out new locations. So in the next 10 years, there will be a constant shortage of rooms, especially the best ones on the market. And right now, the main problem is that a developer spends an average of 2 years to launch a project. It's the same thing that happened in Vladivostok, when in 2015, with a population of 600,000, 1 million tourists came to Vladivostok each year, 400, 500,000 Koreans. Thanks to the visa-free entry, it's just a 2-hour flight to the nearest European city for them. For the Koreans, there's cheap food, high service, and there just weren't enough rooms. Developers just couldn't keep up with launching these projects. Yes, this will eventually come to an end. We need to clearly understand that this rapid growth is exactly where we need to jump in, make money, and then it will just turn into a stable, clear, civilized market with predictable returns.
Yeah, but for the next 10 years, this will be a growing market.
Yeah, that's true.
Awesome. That's right. Did the clients hear the answer to your question? Be among the first, click the link in the description and sign up. This was Denis Rochnyak and Anton Pankin with you. See you next time.